I, 28 female, met my husband, Zayden, 30, 10 years ago. At the time, he was a single dad to an infant baby girl, Lily, tween. I worked at the bakery he'd stop at every Saturday before their walk, and eventually we started going out. We got married 6 years ago, and I legally adopted Lily soon after that. In my family, it's a tradition that the oldest daughter gets gifted an old sapphire ring on her tween birthday. The ring belonged to my grandmother, who gave it to my aunt, who gave it to me, because all of my cousins are male. Lily's birthday was a few months ago, and I gave the ring to her because she's my oldest daughter. She loves that ring more than anything. She put it on a chain to wear around her neck so that she could keep better track of it, and in the months that she's had it, I've never seen her take it off. My sister Mia, 24, is one of Lily's favorite people. Lily loves her aunt, and sometimes Mia will text to let me and Zayden know that she's picking Lily up from school to go eat or go to the bookstore. The other day I got one of those texts from Mia, so I told her to be safe, have fun, and make sure my daughter came home at a decent time because it was a school night. Lily got home about an hour after dinner, and she barely said hello to her dad or me before she went to her room. I thought that maybe she was just tired, so he and I didn't immediately ask her what was going on. But later that night, I went to go check on her because I wanted to be sure. When I walked into her room, I saw her crying. I asked her what was wrong, and it took a minute. Still, she eventually told me that Mia took the ring from her because it's a family heirloom that's supposed to go to the actual oldest daughter, and that because I adopted her, that means she isn't family. The only reason I didn't go to Mia's apartment that night to get it back was that I spent the rest of the evening reassuring Lily that she was my family. She's 100% my actual oldest daughter, no matter what our DNA or anyone else says. I left Mia a voicemail that morning, telling her to return the ring before I drove over there and got it myself. She texted, saying she would only give it to me if I had a daughter before she did, but until then she'd keep it safe to make sure I didn't give it back to the wrong person. So then I told her that if she didn't return the ring by 2 p.m. that day, I would be calling the police and reporting it stolen. She started texting like crazy, saying I was being ridiculous and doing too much. Our mom is in on it now too, and she thinks saying I contact the police was taking it too far, and that Mia was only trying to keep to the family tradition. Am I the idiot for threatening to call the police to get back a ring that my sister took from my daughter? Not the idiot. She took a birthday gift from your child and told that child that she wasn't family. Your sister's lucky that all you did was say you called the cops. I'd be very concerned about what other things the fun aunt was saying or doing all those other times now. This exactly. There are two possibilities. She played the long game from the start and got close to Lily, knowing the end game, or the idea dawned on her recently, and she took the opportunity to steal and crush a child that looked up to her. Neither is excusable. I hope OP takes your no contact advice, because there's no way those people should be around children, or anyone really. OP, please remove your permission for your mother and sister to pick your daughter up from school. Who knows what else they decide to tell her and do? Mia's been jealous of OP having the ring for years and decided to destroy Lily to get it. What a sad, miserable person. OP, call the cops. Even if Mia was right about who should get the ring next, it's yours until that person turns 11. Said person does not even exist yet, so the ring is clearly still yours, even by Mia's warped standards. My wife and I have been together for 6 years, and I'm willing to admit that she didn't start acting like this until we got pets. She was a very compromising and solution-finding individual before getting the animals. My father's home burnt down, and he ended up staying at a hostel. I told him he could stay with us, but he refused, as he didn't want to be a burden. He did ask that I take in his animals temporarily, however. He has a dog and 3 cats. Our household has been completely pet-free the entire time we've been together. I ran it by the old lady, and she said it was fine, provided it wasn't for a long time. She's never wanted animals. It's been 4 months now, and my wife is slowly starting to become a person I've never seen her be. The dog will stare at her while she's eating and whine, and my wife gets angry. The dog is definitely begging, and I understand it's irritating, but she's being kind of ridiculous. She'll tell the dog to go in the other room, which is entirely okay with me, but then becomes super frustrated because the dog will poke his head out of the doorway and stare her down while she's eating, while licking his mouth and whining. It just frustrates her beyond belief. It didn't originally, but it certainly does now. She's been eating on the porch most nights because she's tired of being watched and unable to eat her food in peace. Or the cats, who she likes a lot more than the dog, are even starting to make her angry. Like if she's reading a book, the cats immediately run over and knock the book out of her hands. The second she picks up her phone, the smallest cat will come over and attack her hands, trying to play. Or they'll come in and start getting on her at 3 a.m. every single night. I've seen it happen. She isn't exaggerating about it. It's like the second she tries to do anything at all, the cats are all over her. And again, I get it. It's frustrating. But she's being ridiculous. She lost it yesterday and tossed the cat off the bed after the cat ripped the phone from her hands while she was on a phone call. She yelled at the dog to get away from her this morning because she was cooking, and the dog kept trying to jump on her, like screaming at the dog. I'm getting quite fed up with the constant tension and told her to come off it and stop being a drama queen, even after she yelled at me that she was sick of being mauled all the time. She left, didn't even turn off the stove, just stormed out of the house and hasn't come back. Am I the idiot? I feel like she's going overboard, and it came off harsher than intended. You are the idiot. You're so belittling. She gets woken up in the middle of the night and she's being ridiculous. The dog keeps trying to jump on her while she's cooking on the stove, and you're getting quite fed up. She said she'd take them, provided it wasn't for a long time. Unless you're speaking about geologic time, 4 months is most certainly a long time to be housing pets you never wanted. Yeah, this part got me. As soon as I saw 4 months, I was like, that's a third of a whole year. That's a long time to deal with someone else's pets when you're not used to them and don't want them. OP needs to solve this problem ASAP. You are so much the idiot here. Your wife has valid complaints. I noticed you said something about how long they're expected to stay, meaning there's no end date. Board them. Help your father find a place. Start being proactive than passively complaining. Those pets need to go, or you should pay for your place and enjoy the pets to your heart's content. You're lucky she's only slowly becoming someone you don't recognize. If it were me, I'd have been there a long time before her. I'm a female teen. My mom and dad divorced when I was a baby, so I spend most of my time with my mom and every other weekend with my dad. In elementary and middle school, I attended an art class hosted by Mrs. Annie on Saturdays. In 4th grade, I asked my dad if I could go on his weekends too, and he told me that if I wanted to go on his weekends, then I would need to cover both the cost of each lesson, $12 for 4 hours, plus $5 to contribute towards the direct TV recording feature, since he had to miss his TV shows to take me. I could go 3 times on his days, using the money I had saved from the holidays. Finally, I told my mom that I was sad because I didn't have any more money left to be able to go to Mrs. Annie's on Dad's weekend. My mom didn't realize that my dad was making me pay for my lessons and flipped out at him. From then on, she would pick me up on his Saturdays for art class. Since I got into high school, we haven't had time to go to Mrs. Annie's, but I still do art and go to online lessons whenever I can. Dad had a party at the house with a bunch of people from his work. I thanked him for dinner. He said he wanted me to stay at the table and talk to his work friends, but I told him I needed to finish a school project and went to my room. Later, one of my dad's friends came up to me while I was refilling my water bottle in the kitchen and told me that I should have done what my dad wanted me to. I should have more gratitude towards my dad because on top of raising and supporting me, he's the reason why I'm a fantastic artist. Dad showed his work friends my art and said that I was a fantastic artist because of him and all the expensive art lessons that he paid for. I told the work friend that my dad had never paid for any of my art lessons and how when I was a 4th grader, he refused to take me to art lessons unless I paid the $12 fee myself and gave him $5 to contribute to the direct TV recording feature. His friend apologized for the misunderstanding, and I forgot about it until Dad started lecturing me last week. The work friend told all the other coworkers that Dad never paid for my art lessons and tried making me pay for them. Some of his coworkers now only talk to him for business reasons, but most of them are making fun of him and saying stuff like, that's so expensive, but we can have OP save up her lunch money to cover it. Right, Daniel? My dad. My grandma and Dad's girlfriend agree with Dad because I'm not owed art lessons, and being bitter about it is no reason to try and mess up his work reputation with what I said. My mom and stepdad said that I did nothing wrong, and Daniel shouldn't have told those lies in the first place. My sister Tori said my dad deserved to be embarrassed anyway. Tori hasn't talked to Dad in a long time, so now I'm conflicted about if I should have said what I did to Dad's work friend. Not the idiot. You aren't owed art lessons, sure. He didn't need to provide them. As much as that sucks, and we all wish every kid could get the extra enrichment they want, but your dad doesn't get to take credit for your work, especially if he didn't support you in the process of getting there. He doesn't get to take credit for providing you with something that he didn't actually provide you with. Dad's a cheapskate, a crappy parent, and a liar, so why should you be trying to maintain his reputation? You didn't lie, you just told the sad truth. Dad should have kept his mouth shut instead of getting braggy. Also, I just want to say work friends got an inflated sense of ego to come up to you and tell you that you should be a better, more grateful kid to your dad. No, honey. I'm proud of all you've accomplished, but the credit is not his to take. You wouldn't go to a bakery, buy a cake, and then brag that you're the reason the cake is good. There are people who have kids that make me wonder if they even like their own children. Making a 9-year-old pay towards your TV bill? Really? And $5 doesn't even cover it, so it's like he was doing it to make it more painful on purpose for his own child. There was no responsibility lesson taught here, just a straight-up idiot move. My husband and I are expecting our first baby. We've had some ups and downs with his parents because they don't understand boundaries, but overall it's been really good. For some context, I, 24 female, come from an abusive home, and I can't stand being touched. Before getting pregnant, this wasn't a problem with my in-laws, but now that I'm carrying a baby, it's been awful with my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law because they think they can touch my belly whenever they want to. Both my husband and I have talked to them and said that while I would rather they don't touch me at all, I can understand this is a big thing as a family, so I would simply like being asked instead of just feeling a hand at random times. But they rarely do it, so I move when they touch me. Now onto the subject. A week ago, my best friend threw me a baby shower, and I invited my in-laws. And since I don't have any blood family left, we let them invite 10 more people, which included aunts and cousins and my husband's grandparents. It was an overall lovely moment, but at one time I was sitting eating cake with my mother-in-law, talked with my father-in-law's sister, and while telling her something about the baby, she put her hands on my belly. And I don't know, I just didn't like it. So I took her hand, removed it, and said, No, you know I've told you not to touch without asking first. You know how to ask first, don't you? It's easy. With the most condescending voice I had. So my mother-in-law and my father-in-law's sister looked at me shocked, and then my father-in-law's sister laughed, but my mother-in-law got red in the face. When it was done, my mother-in-law approached me and said that what I did wasn't nice, and she just slipped, so I didn't have to treat her like a kid. I just smiled and said that touching me after being asked a million times not to was kids' behavior, and I just called her out on that. She left very deflated, and when we got home, my father-in-law called my husband and said he would love for us to apologize to each other, but I said no, so he called me an idiot. Not the idiot. Sometimes people don't understand when you ask nicely. My friend grabbed a stranger's boob when the stranger touched her belly. The stranger was shocked, and my friend said, "Oh, I thought we were grabbing each other's bodies. My bad." Everyone thinks being pregnant makes you public property. I hate it. Stand your ground, enforce your boundaries, and grab her boob every time. I was far more dramatic when I was pregnant. I wore a shirt that said, "You can touch my belly if I can punch your face." The proper response from your mother-in-law would have been, "I'm so sorry, OP, you're right. You've been very clear about this," and I let it slip my mind. I'll remember to ask permission before touching you in the future. Please forgive me." There, done and dusted. But instead, she chose to be offended. My mother was so bad for it. I went out and bought 3 t-shirts that said, "Do not touch the bump," and deliberately wore them every time I had to see her. When I finally snapped, she acted like I was the devil himself. Insane. I don't think anyone appreciates being touched without consent, let alone someone with an aversion to being touched in the first place. If someone can't respect your wishes, even after being told many times, they deserve to be called out. Also, being asked to apologize because you both were at fault is infuriating, especially when you weren't at fault. I am so confused here. I can't decide if I'm setting a reasonable boundary or being a cold-hearted witch. My brother and I have never gotten along. We have very different values. I'm 5 years older than my brother. I work a blue-collar job, as does my husband. We have 1 toddler. My brother is an entrepreneur who bounces from projects to project. When he was 23, he married his wife. I was engaged at the time, but my now husband wasn't invited. I barely knew this woman then, so I didn't care. I was just there for appearances. Over the years, I've seen this woman only at family gatherings. She was never hostile to me, but we had nothing in common and never had any great interactions. My parents told me about the divorce, and I didn't have much of a reaction. Then she reached out to me and told me they had no money. This doesn't surprise me. She told me my brother ruined her life and she needed help financially with childcare. I told her I was sorry, that I was willing to have my nephews and niece visit me, but I wasn't going to give her money and didn't want to continue to have a relationship with her. Not that we ever really had one. She told me that women support other women. My brother ruined her life and I needed to help her. She said a lot of stuff about gender in my family and a ton of other stuff, but I just don't care. I have my own life and family. Does that make me cold? Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You don't reach out to someone you only see at family functions for money. Your brother ruined her life. You didn't. I'm sure she must be desperate, but that doesn't mean that you're obligated to throw money her way. She's in financial trouble? Then she needs to speak to your brother, not you. Funny how people only want a relationship with you when they want something. Be there for your nibblings, but be weary of her. Seems like she's ready to leech. Also, the fact that she included choice words for your family while asking for your help is vile and a huge red flag. I get venting about him, but the rest is uncalled for. It's not just money either, it's childcare. How or what are you supposed to do there if you and your husband both work? Is she expecting you to babysit or pay her childcare cost? Either way, that's not your responsibility. She can bring your brother to court for child support if he's not helping, but you have no obligation just to give her money, ever. Good luck, because this seems like it's only going to get worse. If she keeps harassing you, consider blocking her.